Hey, folks, I will call the meeting to order, and so we can get you back to what you do on a August night in View Royal. Thank you very much for showing up tonight. It really means a lot to us and helps our decision making along. I'll start with a brief territorial acknowledgement as well, because it's not on the agenda, and that View Royal recognizes the historic lands of the Kasapsan and the Songhees Nation, and we look forward to opportunities of mutual prosperity. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? And now's the time to amend it or bring up any amendments for the agenda as well. Judy moves, Kim seconds. All those in favor of the agenda? Any opposed? Seeing none opposed, motion carries. And can I get a motion to receive the minutes if there's no errors or omissions for the meeting that we held on the 2nd of June? Judy moves and Kim seconds. Thank you very much. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none opposed, motion carries. Chair's report, I'll be brief. Wade Abbott, who may join us online, is moving to Saanich. I know his time there will not be as happy, so he's going to have to, of course, resign from his position here. But thank you, Wade, for your service, and thank you all for taking the time out of your busy lives to help the town and understand your perspectives. The last bit, I just want to kind of go over, we've got probably 3 items on the agenda. One is, of course, Leanne's going to update us on the project scope and timeline presentation piece. And even though we're heavy duty concentrating on the housing and the zoning and what that looks like, of course, there is much more to the OCP than that. And she'll provide a brief overview. You've also got correspondence from Councillor Matson. Some of the originating work behind that was from Doug, and Doug's in the audience. So after the meeting, if you want to talk to Doug about anything that he had presented in his analysis of the Western Gateway, feel free to. And then the real reason, I think, to meet the timelines is the draft Western Gateway Corridor Survey, which you might have had an opportunity to look at already. And with that, we've got no pets and dells or business arising from previous minutes, so we'll go right down to you, Leanne, for the staff report.
Oh, can you hear me now? Sorry, pardon me, there's a lot going on this evening. So, yes, and so anyways, as a result, we are moving forward with these OCP amendments and alongside with other updates to the OCP, which will take me to the next slide. So in addition to aligning the OCP with its town's 20-year housing needs report, we will also be focusing on the review and update of the land use designation solely along the proposed Western Gateway Community Corridor from the intersection of Island Highway and Burnside Road to the Colwood Corner. So in our current OCP, the 2011 OCP, the Western Gateway Corridor runs from Parsons Bridge to the Colwood border. And so as part of this OCP review, we're looking at, and council has given us the instruction to look at extending that to the Island Highway and Burnside Road. And so we're going to start engaging on that. And the first step of that is for this committee to review a draft survey, which we would like to launch in October. And then we're also going to continue to look at the vision statement and goals and policies with respect to land use, housing, transportation, environment, economic development that are currently in the OCP. And another change is that in order to complete this project by next, now combining phase 1 and phase 2 of the OCP review and update. Just we were able to find some alignment between phase 1 and phase 2 to reduce duplication of work, and especially with this somewhat of a scope change, we're able to make some further modifications to the project timeline, which is helpful. Next slide, please. So just to bring the committee up to speed, so we do have a revised project timeline as a result of the revised, somewhat revised project scope. So right now, the committee knows that we have a vision survey that staff launched in middle of July, and that's going to run till September 7th. So I really encourage everyone here to complete it, as well as send it to your neighbors, to your friends. As you know, we're hoping to have good responses to this survey. So that will help us draft the vision and finalize the goals. So in this timeline, we sort of separated out the timeline associated with meeting on the provincial legislation by the end of this year, and then also the timeline for the rest of the OCP review and update that we want to complete by next September. So staff will be bringing forward a report soon on introducing the proposed amendments to the OCP to align with the 20-year housing need. And then that will be in September. And then, should council support these proposed amendments and instruct staff to bring forward a bylaw for first and second reading, then that would happen in October. We're planning. And if the bylaws receive first and second reading, then we are hoping to schedule a public hearing around October time, and then final adoption in November in order to meet those deadlines. And then the other timelines that we're working with is the rest of the OCP review and update project, which is engaging on the Western Gateway Corridor, as well as all other policies within our OCP. And so we're continuing along as we originally presented to council in order to wrap this project up by June of, actually September of 2026. Next slide. So in the fall, we're going to have our second engagement, our third, pardon me, it'll be our third engagement touch point. as it's noted on the slide, the first piece of this engagement is on the vision survey, which is ongoing, and that will wrap up on September 7th. So we've have the online survey, and staff have been out in the community doing some pop-ups in order to raise awareness. And then we're hoping to start engagement on the Western Gateway Corridor in October through to November. This will consist of an online survey, some workshops with the general public, but also specifically with property owners and business owners along the Western Gateway. We'll have some open houses, and then again, we'll also have some pop-ups. And then from November to December, once we gather feedback from and then we're going to do the policy review and engagement on that in November to December, which will consist of an online survey, open houses, workshops with external stakeholders as well as with our local First Nations. And then from that, then it'll take us into 2026, and that's when we'll be very busy, really busy drafting the OCP and coming back to this committee for input, and also going back out to the community for some final engagement on that process. Next slide. So this next, even though the looking at the Western Gateway Corridor survey is going to happen, I think it's the third item on the agenda tonight. But I just wanted to quickly touch on this slide since I'm giving a presentation on the OCP update. So the committee received a test link to the draft survey, so everyone had the opportunity to test it. So I hope everyone had the opportunity to do that. And some of the questions that we're hoping staff would like to ask tonight, and I hope and I've also shared with the committee earlier that I hope you've had a chance to think about is the survey easy to understand? Is there enough background information provided? Are there other questions we should be asking? Should we reaffirm the questions previously asked in the community growth survey related to height and uses? So these are some of the questions that we have for you this evening. Next slide. And the last update that I would like to share with you this evening is a motion that Council passed on July 15th at the Council meeting on July 15th, and Council instructed staff to share this with the OCP Advisory Committee. And Council's motion is as follows: that the committee recommend to Council that the 2020 it should be 2025-2026 official community plan update include a policy statement that new development 4 stories or greater should incorporate commercial or public use space. So this is a policy that Council has instructed staff to include in our OCP update, but also wish that this motion be referred to this committee as well. And as part of these amendments that we're doing that need to be done before the end of this year, we are going to incorporate this into those amendments and not wait until next year, just because this is something that's really important to Council, and so we're hoping to include this amendment as well. And that's the end of my presentation this evening, and looking forward to any questions or comments on any of the material that was presented in this tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Leanne. I guess, thanks for the presentation. Do we receive that? Just a motion to receive it that the committee has? Can I get a motion to receive Leanne's presentation? Just received. Judy, Aaron, all in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none opposed. And I think there's a piece out there that we need to tease out, and that is for the Western Gateway, for that, or sorry, for the policy that on commercial space or public use space. So I'd like to start with just a general discussion about that. Like right now, for instance, we have had all but one larger 4-story or greater incorporate commercial space. And when I mean that, it could be daycare, could be a library, could be whatever. Most of the housing that we've put in to date has no public amenity associated with it at all. And that's all of Erskine Lane development. The exception, of course, being on the corner of Old Island and Helmkin, where council, as part of the development agreement, actually stated that they needed to see some grocery store in the bottom of that. But I'd like to open it up for general comments about that. It's just that our challenge is with an increased population, we need place for services and businesses to serve them, even a coffee shop. But if they're not being developed, then we have kind of an urban or a urban desert of services. So if you're trying to get daycare or haircuts, nails done, doctor's offices, whatever, there's no opportunity to do it. So I'd like to just maybe go around the table as opposed to people speaking up and just have your thoughts on it. Is this something that the town should focus on and try to ensure that we have space for amenities, or just leave it up to development for developers to do it? I think the concern of council was they haven't been doing it until we direct them to. So that is why that kind of motion came up. Jerry, you've already had a kick out of it, but let's start with you. Go ahead.
I think it's a really good idea. The only thing I'm curious about, and I didn't look when we drove by, is the new development on the corner of Island Highway and Helmkin. Have they had anybody take over that lease yet? No. So
No,
that's
I
my
don't think
thought.
that, I think they started with good intention. I think there was initially interest in it and that fell through over time. But yeah, I think they've tried a number of things. Leanne, do you have any update on that?
That is correct. The zoning for that particular property,
Yeah,
the only commercial use that's permitted is a neighborhood grocery store, which has been a challenge for the
Yes.
developer to lease. They've been out, reaching out to local grocers, and it's been a challenge. And so we actually have a rezoning application in right now to amend the zone to allow for more commercial uses in order to so there's a bit more flexibility. So that will be coming to council, our committee of the whole soon. But the application is up on our website if you want to have a look at it.
and that's what interests me. It's like, I think it's great, and it would be wonderful to have more services, but if the developers can't fill those spots, they're going to dig in their heels, and you can't blame them. I mean, I look at that building and people are moving in now, and the developer is still stuck with this big empty spot. So somehow, I don't know, we've got to make that work for them, or it's not going to happen. Yeah, so I essentially, I think it's a really good idea. I look at all those new buildings over on the other side of the hospital. There's what, 4 or 5 buildings there, and there's nothing else there. And they're very nice buildings. They've got playgrounds and all that. But when I first heard people talking about that, there was going to be a daycare there. There was going to be other stuff. There was going to be a neighborhood coffee shop and stuff like that. And it never happened. And I think it's needed. I think it's just like you said, it becomes a desert otherwise. You've got to drive somewhere to get a quart of milk or liter of milk. God, that aged me. A bag, because I lived in Ontario. Yeah. But so it's a good idea, but I think maybe the council is going to have to sweeten the pot somehow to make it work for developers. Okay.
Judy, that's a great question that I had too, Leanne. Somebody else had brought this up. Are developers really maximizing the rental cost for those space that makes potential clients not want to sign a lease for commercial?
I'm not aware of that in terms of what the lease rates are for example, for 258 Elmkin, which is the Royale. Yeah.
That would be a question I think I and the rest of council would be interested in, because we're hearing throughout the West Shore that there's been an increase for commercial rent. And I don't know how proportionate it is. I don't know how level of playing field it is, but it'd be interesting to look at what they're charging for that may deter potential folks coming in. Because there's a reason why somebody says no. I would think one of the reasons somebody says no is maybe the cost for the space might be too high. Go ahead, Kim.
Okay, so my thoughts on this. I guess depending on the location, like if you're near Eagle Creek and you have amenities there already, like would you need amenities on the first floor? Also, I'm thinking of accessibility. Some people want to live on the first floor because they have wheelchairs, accessibility to go out. So if you leave the first floor commercial, it will be a difficulty for them. That might be problematic. But so yeah, but also it's nice to have a coffee shop to go to down below or a restaurant. Like so mixed feelings.
So yeah, it would depend, I guess.
Yeah,
That's what you're
depend.
saying. Maybe
Yeah.
not the total first floor, but some of the first floor,
Yeah.
depending on, okay.
Yeah.
That's good. That's valuable. Nathan, what are your thoughts?
Obviously, I think more commercial space would be kind of nice. I do like what Kim said about partial first floor. I think there's a lot of value to commercial spaces. I know, obviously, you saw me working at Quality Foods. I think Eagle Creek is already an awesome thing, but because I have a bias, I live pretty close to it. But for someone maybe on the other side, it might be a little bit more tedious to have to go all the way over there to get stuff like that. But I mean, at the same time, me and my brother will just walk up and get ice caps from Tim Hortons at 10 p.m. and it's just an enjoyable little time. So I think more commercial space spread out would be great.
Thanks, Nathan. Aaron.
I guess some good points have been made about the various situations in the various areas. I think the area of the Western Corridor that is kind of already commercial, like you have a dance studio and there's a 6 Mile pub there, that makes sense to have commercial there, maybe prescribed by council. But I think when you start getting into those areas where I think it was Kim said that, you already have Eagle Creek. So to force a business to open or force commercial to go in very close, to me, ultimately, I think the businesses have to be viable. And so to prescribe, be a little bit too prescriptive, that may have happened with the potential grocery store, can lead to some unintended, empty space that's not serving anyone at that point, and then we're driving up costs for everything else.
Thanks, Aaron. And great points. And I'll note that when, because I live right across from Eagle Creek, that when Eagle Creek first opened up, like not all of the places were full, right? It was like, I think the FY Doctors thing was empty. It was going to be a restaurant. It was going to be a pub. It was literally years before somebody moved in there. Now it seems to be, stable, and you do have some turnover, but boy, they aren't staying vacant for very long. They're being snapped up pretty quick. So my own thinking is how much of it is just time and how much of it's reasonable, because that building just opened up like in the summertime. And then maybe, Aaron, to your point, over prescription and just leaving it as commercial, identify and maybe reward some of those things that you really want. And if somebody else really wants to move in there, then leave it open for them for that. And what I'm hearing as well is kind of a partial so far, is not necessarily the full thing. Tom.
Is there a current shortage of commercial space in the municipality?
So we had a land economic study completed, as well as an update. And there is some retail demand. It is not as high as it was when the land economic study was completed in 2019, and there has been a slight decrease in the demand, but there's a slight demand. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but there is a small demand, and then it actually decreases in 10 years due to declines in immigration and other things too. So it's really interesting, the forecast for commercial space within our area.
I think one of the problems is that if you mandate that they have to do it and they're not able to get a viable tenant, they're going to pass the cost right on to the rest of the tenants in the building. And so you can assume that the cost of the housing units above are going to go up unless they can get a viable tenant. A viable tenant may require parking and other resources. So I think the municipality has to take that into consideration. If you're going to mandate that there is a coffee shop goes in or a restaurant or a grocery store, there better be parking or else it's not going to work. So the idea is great, but I think maybe it needs to be a little thought through a little bit and be pretty flexible.
Thanks, Tom. And I'm just thinking of the Nest. Everybody familiar with where the Nest is, little coffee shop? There's almost no parking there. There's a couple of spots, but it seems to be fairly popular and it's niche. Nobody said it's going to be a coffee shop. I don't think it was mandated by the town to say it was going to be a coffee shop, but it was a niche kind of thing that evolved from the space that they had that seems to serve a purpose. So get your points, Tom. And I don't think we require a vote from the committee, or do we want to just have feedback to council?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Feedback is fine, and we've collected that feedback. And when we go back to council in the future, we can inform council of what we heard from the OCP Advisory Committee. And I think it's just important to clarify that this is a policy in the OCP, and the language was slightly softened. To use instead of must, it became should, to allow for a bit of flexibility, recognizing that commercial might not be viable everywhere, but at least we have a policy to hang our hats on for when we do receive an application. We can look at that policy and say, here's a policy that strongly encourages commercial and public use space, and this location is ideal for that. And so we have something to justify why we are recommending that commercial is provided as part of a development. So it's hope that clarifies things.
What's public use space as opposed to commercial?
Like a community hall, community space.
Yeah, so there's more than kind of just commercial that we're trying to encompass with that, like just a space to take care of the more people. Because when you look at View Royal, we have had historically 2 community halls, even though our population has doubled or more since those were built 100 years ago. We've got no more community halls, right? No more space. And the space, I would argue, is pretty inadequate from the 2 kind of small community halls that are kind of existing here now. So again, it just leaves the opportunity there to incorporate residential with kind of a mixed use that could be commercial, could be public amenity. So thank you all for your feedback, Leanne. Yeah, I guess that'll come back to council kind of in September or whatever, when we have our next council meeting, just as feedback.
So the minutes from this meeting will be on the council agenda. On the upcoming council agenda, so council will see the feedback that's given.
Perfect, thanks. And I think that Do we have anything else out of your report that we need to pull out?
No, Chair, that was it. And then under new business 9A, that's when we'll talk about the survey.
Great. And I'll just go to the correspondence. We received the report, so I'll just go to the correspondence, and I think everybody had a chance to read it. And again, this is just for information. We need a motion to receive, but it was, we've got the land economic use study, and Doug has put in some significant work and analysis and looking at it with a lens that might answer some more detailed questions, and that's on pages 14 to 18 in the agenda package. Did anybody have any questions, particularly about Councillor Matson's email or the information that was there? Tom?
Just a quick question. Is there any technical limitations that we should know about in this area? I mean, it looks like it's river bottom.
That's a good point, Tom. Before we start, I think Leanne's got some info on it.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. There are a lot of things that need to be considered when looking at redeveloping the West Shore, the Western Gateway. One issue are soils in that area. So even though, you know, they're massive lots, there are some soil conditions there that are less desirable. Also, a huge there's environmental development permit area that runs along a lot of these, along the parcels that abut Millstream Creek, which actually encroach into these properties quite a bit. So these are some things that need to be considered when you're doing these types of analysis. So yeah, so yeah. So anyways, I'll leave it there.
Leanne, how that would translate is it probably wouldn't be wise to build a 5-story deep underground parking because you'd probably be underwater. Am I saying that correctly?
I would, yeah, we would have to do some geotech work. I mean, we wouldn't, a future developer would do some geotech work there when they are looking at what type of loads that can be that would be suitable for those properties, because that's a big issue is building load.
Great, thanks, Leanne. Tom, did that answer your question?
Yes, it is.
Any other questions? Deep thoughts even.
Question. Are these owned by a person that would want to sell them for development?
Interesting question. I think there's one parcel there that I think Leanne and Scott, our CAO, have spoken to that is interested in and is part of the OCP process, right? Leanne, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think council passed a while back that it used to be the place for car lots, right? Because a lot of them, and it's not just on View Royal side, it goes all the way into kind of Colwood as well. I think council has passed something that they didn't want to see any more car lots there necessarily. But I think that was kind of it for, are there places looking to redevelop? And I think there is some interest in some of the lots and some of them maybe not so much.
Is the 6 Mile Pub designated heritage?
We don't have a heritage designation in View Royal, but I would say it's of historical interest. Leave it at that. Is that good, Leanne?
That is correct. It doesn't have heritage designation. No.
And I'll just spell a ditty about the mic. So usually when the cameras are on, and which they're on now, that I wasn't aware of until I think Leanne or somebody reminded me, if your microphone's on, then the camera zooms toward you. So if you're done talking, or maybe you just like the look of everybody else seeing you on camera, that's okay. It's up to you. It's personal choice. But if you do leave your mic on, then the camera is going to be focused on you. Did that answer all your questions, Kim? Any other ones?
I guess, you know, this is a general question, but, you know, we're receiving stuff from the public. And I was just wondering if Leanne has any feedback on any context you think this might be missing, or, something to add, or accuracy, like I'm not questioning it, but, just is there anything you'd like to add to this type of thing? Because we didn't see anything sort of similar presented by the town.
No, we had a land economic study done, as well as an update to the land economic study, and we it didn't go into this extent. However, we will be, council has requested that staff do a bit more digging, but there, yeah, I mean, it's definitely, it's helpful information. But just going back to Tom Allen's comment just around, there's the aspects that have not been considered about site conditions that play a huge role. And yes, it's a very, it's more of a desktop exercise. You're not looking at everything that that we have to look at when we're, and not just us, this developers have to look at when they're considering the developability of a site.
Great. Any other comments, questions? Can I get a motion to receive Councillor Matson's email? Go with the same two? Or Aaron and Judy. So Aaron moves, Judy seconds. All those in favor of receipt? Any opposed? Seeing none opposed, motion carries. And that brings us down to the draft Western Gateway Corridor Survey. Leanne.
Thank you. So, thank you, Chair. So, like we've done in the past, it would be, I hope the committee has had a chance to review the Western Gateway Corridor Survey. And what has been really helpful for staff in order to obtain feedback is just going around the room and just everyone have an opportunity to provide their feedback, ask questions, provide their feedback, and we will record that feedback. And I think Mayor Tobias, it was helpful when you made it resolution, like motions, so that we're clear in terms of what exactly the committee is wanting, changed or revised in the survey. So that's been helpful for staff. Yeah.
We'll go around the room with this. The only thing that I'm seeing from the draft and online too is I like the description here a little bit, but a map, like leading it off, like what is the Western Gateway and where is it? Because we've kind of changed the borders of that in our discussion, right? So is there an intent to put a big old Western Gateway map?
Absolutely. We are working on the maps right now. We're just basically describing what you're mentioning here, and we just haven't had staff just haven't had time to work these maps because we really want to get the survey to the committee to have an opportunity to review, because we wanted to get it to council. We're on a very tight timeline, but the maps are underway.
And I would think like surfacing a bit of the discussion that we've had tonight. Like, there are large lots there that could use redevelopment. However, there is some geotechnical issues. There are some riparian zone issues there. Like, I would lay it out, like what do you want to see? But here's the constraints that we've got right now. It's was a river delta, right? So it's sediment, it's sensitive ecosystem for salmon. So within that construct, like knowing that, what would you want? So just a little bit of context setting to begin with, I would think. Does everybody think that's a fair assessment just on the intro, or are there other things folks would like to see in the intro for the Western Gateway? Jerry?
Yeah, I'm wondering if we can be more specific about the Atkins interchange. Which is saying it's north, and it's people aren't going to have their compasses out to determine. So people will think, is that the roundabout, or is that where Atkins is no longer Atkins, which is actually what it is. So I wonder if we could just say the Western Gateway goes from, how do we say that? The Burnside Island Highway intersection to 6 Mile Road, and then again from Parsons Bridge.
Yeah, we can. We'll have a map that will show the extent of the Western Gateway.
Okay.
I think if we get really wordy, I think it might get confusing too. So it'd be nice to have sort of from point A to point B, and then show a map. But we could also, we could say from point A to point B, from point B to point C. But again,
Yeah.
it's
Sure. Yeah. So I think the Atkins interchange is vague
okay.
for
So
anybody.
okay. So what I'm hearing, Councillor Lemon, is just changing the name from like the Burnside Island Highway Burnside intersection to the Colwood border. Yeah. Okay.
Lovely.
Judy, thoughts on feedback for the survey?
I might just make a note. So when we did the community and communications and engagement strategy survey a year ago, we asked the community what was their sort of top engagement method, like how do they want to, how does the community want to be engaged? And surveys were number one. Yeah. So I think it's just people can do them on their own time, and yeah, so I think that seemed to be the number one. However, I agree. Survey fatigue is something that we talk about internally as well, especially how we're crafting these surveys, and through the feedback from this committee, from council, from the public, it's been very helpful and valuable as we, and I think you can see our surveys refining over time as we, get this feedback from everyone. So, but we're very mindful, and survey fatigue is top of mind for all of us.
Judy, Kim?
Okay, so yeah, I found it was easy to follow, like what Judy was saying. I just had a few questions. I'm not sure if the public is aware. Okay, so one of the questions on page 2 was align the OCP with the 20-year housing needs calculation calculated in the Townsend Term Housing Needs Report. So can you say exactly what the calculations is, or is it too much information? Or maybe put a link to it. Also, I think people are still confused about Bill 44 and 47. Hello, yes?
Sorry, I just want to clarify. When you say, can we put a link to it, do you mean a link to the housing needs report?
Yeah. Or what the exact calculations are that way for 20 years, if that's not too much information.
No, it's no, absolutely no, it's not. And I think the way we've structured this survey, and Leah, correct me if I'm wrong, is that people have an opportunity. They don't have to read everything, so there'll be drop down if the respondents want to read more.
Right.
So we can insert that information in here,
Right.
just as additional background information without losing sight of the purpose of the survey. Because
Right, yeah.
we're not really talking about housing needs in this survey. We're
Yeah.
talking about the Western Gateway.
Right, exactly.
And obviously, yeah. So that's and there seems to be some support for some limited residential along the Western Gateway. So obviously it feeds into our housing, but we can definitely look into that.
Okay, thank you. Also, I asked a few people if they knew what Parsons Bridge, where it was, and they didn't. So I don't know if you need to put next to 6 Mile Pub or something. And also the question. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, to build across this, because we've come across this a few times from Councillor Jerry, Kim, and I think to some extent Mayor Tobias. Would it be helpful to have a map that also has locations of landmarks? So example, the border, the 6 Mile Pub,
Yeah.
the CRD building. I don't really know if people know where that is,
Yeah.
but as an example of different locations that are within this area that we could, highlight. This is the casino. This is the border right next to the casino.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we're going to cite something in it and ask a specific question like the Parsons Bridge, we should show that on a map somewhere.
Yes. And also, I think question 4, about reaffirming the questions previously asked in the community growth survey. I thought just having the graphs would be enough information, not the whole percentage and everything.
Yeah, staff was struggling with that a bit actually, and and thank you, Kim, for bringing that up because we've done some significant engagement already with the public through our community growth survey and the open houses we did on that, and where we asked for the public to for their input on what types of densities would you support in along corridors and things like that. So we've already asked those questions already, and one thought that came to staff's mind is that, okay, well, if we ask those kind of questions again, will people say, well, you already asked me this, and does my feedback not matter? Like, why are you asking me this again? So the committee's input and guidance on that, would be helpful because we just don't want to, we got huge response from that survey as well. So back in springtime. So it'd be helpful to know if we should be reaffirming questions or.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Nathan, you're up.
Sorry, to clarify.
Yeah, so the question that I think staff have is that should we have reaffirming questions in the survey, such as do you continue to support these densities along Western with.
How much would it reduce the survey by if you eliminated those questions?
It's with these questions, the length of survey is not really a big deal. It's just more of would the public be critical of the fact that we've already asked these questions? Why are we asking them again?
I don't think so. If we've left it open and that was open for a long time, I'd be interested in knowing, did you respond to the previous 2 or 3 surveys that we've done? That would be a question that I would ask in there, but I wouldn't necessarily repeat it because that would be survey fatigue from my perspective.
Okay.
If
So
we're-
include the results, but not ask the questions again.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Kim was saying.
Exactly. Yeah. I would post the results from that. And then if somebody wanted to put in the comments that, hey, I missed this and here's my comment on it or whatever, they could do that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're up now, Nathan.
Yeah, I think looking at the survey, I think it asked all the right questions. Touching on Judy's point, I have a student leader role at the school, and some of that involves designing surveys. And I think to a certain extent, we figure we can get, like at our school, about 3 surveys out before our actual response rate drops by 20 or 30% because the kids just don't want to respond to surveys over and over and over again. But I mean, that from what I can see, the survey had strong questions and touched on the majority, if not all, of the important areas.
Thanks, Nathan. Appreciate that. Aaron.
Great survey. Thank you for your work again. I have a couple of points, I guess. Under the revising scope and consultation process, and I think this is maybe what Kim was alluding to. I might be a little bit different, but align the OCP with the anticipated 20-year housing needs calculated in town's interim housing needs report. So that to me suggests that, and then it goes on about Bill 44 and Bill 47. That suggests to me that and council have made some calculation that this plan will meet the housing needs between Bill 47, Bill 44, and the Western Gateway will meet the anticipated 20-year report. Is that something that's been calculated?
Yes, so in our housing needs report, it identifies what our 5 and 20-year housing need is, that we
Mhm.
have those numbers.
I get that, but
Oh,
does this plan, 44, 47, and Western Gateway, is there any calculation that shows that this plan would meet
yes, so
those numbers that have already been
yes.
calculated?
Good question. Yeah, so we've done the calculations for the SMA. It's just, very desktop. Obviously, it's all, hypothetical. And then we are doing some sort of desktop calculations for the Western Gateway, as well as the TOA. We can definitely look into that. But we already know that and I think that's important work. We already know that the SMA is low uptake, yeah.
So to verify that's work going to happen later for the TOA and the Western
Staff's
Gateway?
working on it right
Okay.
now, yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then later in the Western Gateway Community Quarter section, it says, it's mostly, I found this mostly really focused on like, at least some of the preambles focus on like commercial and, industrial. And there's even some residential development in strategic locations. Does that mean that, we have about 4 properties-ish that could be redeveloped? Is there ones that we're not looking at putting residential onto? Or is that also part of sort of like the future calculations?
Yeah, I think that work is going to evolve as we go through the engagement with the community. So the survey, as well as the public open houses and the workshops that we're doing with with stakeholders, as well as with the public. But in our current 2011 OCP, the Western Gateway is really considered like our employment hub. We have very limited employment lands in View Royal, and once you give them up to residential, you'll never get them back. And they're a high tax base, and again, it's really important to protect those lands because you want to bring jobs to the community. You want people to be able to live and work in the community. There are some very underdeveloped lands along the Western Gateway that does have a lot of potential. It's also along the Blink line. It's in close proximity along the ENN and the Galloping Goose. So, as you know, it's very ideal from a lot of different, for many different reasons. And so, but again, there's likely some areas along the Western Gateway that could be suitable for some residential, perhaps around the mobility hub, so that is just sort of like along Island Highway, close to the bridge, yeah. And so there might be some strategic locations. That's what we mean by that. But when we did the engagement in early spring, there was most support for, and I think there might be a graph in here for commercial light industrial with limited residential, recognizing that there's a strong support to protect these lands for employment and economic development.
Okay. So back to the discussion earlier about like making commercial on top. What's on top if it's not housing?
It's just so there's different options. I mean, we want to keep it flexible, but it could be two-story commercial. What we're hearing in the land economic study is that it is challenging to build commercial in today's climate, and so the most viable commercial is usually single or two-story buildings with surface parking. That is the most viable type of commercial development. But we're going to have to discuss this with the community, discuss this with the OCP Advisory Committee in terms of what the vision is for the Western Gateway. So we will be diving into this as well.
But Aaron, I don't think we've ruled out any combination of residential and commercial there, although protecting it for employment is key.
Okay, sorry, I did have one more thing. And I can't remember where I saw it now, but I think it was, oh, it was in the preamble of the history of like how, okay, so it's been revised. So, um, basically talking about the decision the council made to not do the 3 scenarios, to do the scenario that allows the Western Gateway. And, okay, sorry, regular council meeting, a motion to amend the project scope of phase 1 was carried to focus on the following components. Okay, sorry. Okay, my bad. Sorry. It says, originally staff were planning a third round of community engagement to get feedback on 3 different land use scenarios showing low, medium, high growth options. To me, that doesn't tell the full story. I think it's also focusing development in one area. It's not just about growth, it's about we're also keeping it in this location. So could something be added in, like basically focusing the growth in the Western corridor rather than other corridors and other town centers and other community hubs or whatever the language is in the engagement? Well, I just think the way that it's said, like basically council decides to go with the one version instead of doing low, medium and high. It's not just about low, medium, high. It's about where the development goes. It's not just about the amount, it's where it's going. Because right now, when we look at Western Corridor, we're leaving out all, Eagle Creek, we're leaving out Correct Flower, we're leaving out the other neighborhoods. So I feel like that should be mentioned too. Because to me, maybe it's not the clearest for the average person filling out the survey that we're done with that. People aren't watching council meetings.
For sure. And I'm sort of reading this and I'm also thinking, does it even necessary in this? I honestly don't even, I think it's actually reading this into my, again, or it's information that does not really pertinent to the survey. So I think we'll take it back. We'll take the comments back, but I think we don't need to, we really need to, the purpose of this survey is focusing on the Western Gateway corridor and seeking feedback on that. I'm not sure if we really need to get into this because I do think it just muddies the waters a little bit and I think it's just confusing. I think you're actually like, yeah, your community, like, it's just confusing to like, what's the purpose of this and what's trying to be communicated here. So we'll take it back and look at it.
You have any other comments? Tom?
Well, went through the survey and I agree completely that the preamble is a little bit confusing and way too long. Surveys I've helped develop and been quite a few, I find out that you can really lose your respondents quickly if they become worn down by your preamble. And then you follow it with 4 open-ended questions. And open-ended questions I'm not a great survey lover, but I hate to see those multiple open-ended questions where I have to write a whole bunch. I would much rather have short answer questions. Some are necessary, but 4 in a row is quite a bit and you might just lose, especially when you get to the 3rd question. What are the challenges facing this area? And damned if I know. I don't live there. And it's a question that I don't think I could answer. So then I say, okay, I'm done. And so I think you make it friendlier going in. I'm not sure that some of the questions can be answered with the knowledge that I have. I think somewhere in here, we should really focus on the fact that this is the gateway to our community. And we want to make this as pretty and nice, and because people coming to View Royal from the west, this is what they'll see. And right now, they're not seeing a very nice part of the community. So I don't know how you emphasize that, but I thought the survey was okay, except that I got kind of bogged down early.
Thanks, Tom. Leanne, is there anything we need to kind of specify specifically out of that in the way of a motion, or did you guys get enough feedback that wasn't, that we weren't kind of in opposition with each other on it? Was that clear enough, or do you need something more succinct?
I think what would be helpful, Leah, if you're able are you able to read back the comments and that we received, and we can just do all those in favor?
Perfect.
Just give me one moment.
No pressure. Go ahead.
Just one more point. I was talking to some of my neighbors about the Western Gateway, and there is a concern about anything that would increase the traffic challenges in that part of because that call would crawl through that section. It backs up a long way in the mornings and the afternoons. And if we're going to increase that density through there, we're going to also have to address that, or else we're going to have a bunch of people on the West Shore that aren't too happy. And I don't know how you do that in your survey too.
I don't have an answer, Leanne. I think the only thing I'm grateful for is they call it the Colwood Crawl and not the View Royal Crawl. But considering that perhaps the majority of time is actually spent in View Royal Vice Colwood. But I think anything that we build, have we just ignored it? And are we ignoring the fact that traffic is continuing to build because of growth, not just in our community, but all the way from Souk and beyond, and then or over the Malahat transiting into work? No, we have not really taken that into consideration. And is that just a provincial? Is that municipal too? That could help in there? That's a good question. But no, I think it will have an impact. Anything that we increase in size that puts another car on the road is going to have an impact.
I would just say if someone from Langford complained about traffic in View Royal, we'll say the traffic is coming from like inside the house. Like you guys are the cause of, like we've said before, that most of the traffic that comes through View Royal is not people who live in View Royal. So if we give View Royalians, I don't know, a place to stop in their community, it's not. I don't think that's a huge issue.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's not just Up Island as well. I mean, Helmkin has turned into a road blockage stoppage. There is obviously some significant concern, as if anybody's been out and about when there has been a highway closure. It took me 3.5 hours to get from downtown to my home during the last closure. So it's not just a question of traffic. It's also a question of, for that 3.5 hours, business has stopped. There's no Uber deliveries. There's nobody going to your restaurant. There is nothing happening. So it is significant for sure. Is there a solution? Ain't got one on me. Aside from the train, Jerry?
Langford and Courtney, I believe, are
Revised housing.
no, they're pitching to the province saying, okay, if you're giving us these housing targets, you say we need to build, 2,000, 4,000, however many homes, you need to help with the infrastructure. And I sure wouldn't be opposed to us doing that in View Royal as well.
So I guess a motion could be to include a link or calculations for the housing needs report, to include landmarks on maps for better direction for residents or respondents, to not ask questions affirming density, and to shorten the preamble.
That cover everything for everybody, or was there something that was missed out that you wanted included in there? Judy?
Well, I agreed about the open-ended questions. It was kind of a rough start. I think maybe some changes there. I agreed with that, yeah.
Thank you. Anything else that was omitted or captured everything? Go ahead, Lynn.
Yeah, Mayor Tobias, one comment that you made earlier regarding just outlining some of the site constraints for properties. We're making those changes already to the preamble, so staff have captured that.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, the only thing that stands between us and home is somebody to make a motion to terminate the meeting. But before we do that, Leanne, when are we expecting to?
We also need a motion for those, like, we need to, someone
Yes,
to second the.
motion to what staff presented as the changes the council is recommending to staff to include in the survey. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Kim, seconded by Judy. All those in favor? And when might we possibly meet again according to your schedule, Leanne, just to give folks a heads up?
We will, just trying to think ahead here. We may come back to the committee in October it will be to review engagement material. Yeah, we just really have to see on time, like the timing of it, because we're just so tight on timing, and it's crucial that we
Likely not in September is kind of where I was.
I don't think we will have another meeting in September because we will no, I don't think so.
Okay, thanks. And before we go to termination, I've just got a question that I'd like you to talk to your neighbors about. That'll come up eventually through the OCP, and it's about medical clinics. As you might have read, Colwood has advanced a medical clinic that the municipality is kind of spearheading. In that instance, the medical clinic staff, including the doctors, are municipal employees. There is a charge back or a shadow billing that the billing that the doctors make goes back to the town. There's an Esquimalt model of developer creates a space. Unfortunately, it can be like a grocery store that nobody wants to move into. So they've got some doctors that want to move into it, others. Langford's done another one, developer with I think the lodge, that they created some space there that's opening up for a clinic. I'd like to know how you think about View Royal. About 35% of us, according to the attachment file that the province has, do not have a doctor in View Royal. And would just like your feelings about that. It's been kicked around in council, not now, just in the future. So that when we get together in October again, sure.
Question about the vision statements. Nowhere in there is health mentioned, health of people. In those three options that are in the survey. Yet that would really relate to what the mayor is just saying, that if you're going to develop a vision for the municipality that includes enhanced health benefits, it should be in the vision statements somewhere.
That's great feedback. So I hope everyone's completed the survey or can add that to their survey responses. And we'll also make note of it as well. One thing that I realized that we haven't gone up to ask if Wade has any comments. Wade Abbott, and I think he's
Wade, you joined. I didn't see his name up there. Is that the phone number?
I think the meeting guest, I believe. So okay. I'd like to see if Wade has any comments to make this evening.
Thanks, Leanne. Wade, go ahead.
All right, I think I've provided the unknown user with the opportunity to speak if they so choose. They would have to still turn on their mic.
Okay.
Wade, are you there? I was going to say make a signal if you can hear us, but okay. So thanks. I don't think maybe Wade could hear us or he's not tuned in, and he can always email in if he had a bad connection or what have you. If there's nothing else, can we get a motion to terminate? Nathan moves that we terminate. Who's going to be the seconder? Aaron is the seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Thanks, folks.